So let's get this party started. Let me share my screen. I'm not going to care about that. Okay. So today we're going to be going over getting an initial exposure to functional testing in JavaScript. We're going to gain some initial exposure to Nightmare.js. And we're going to use Nightmare to verify a website's behavior. So essentially just continuing this whole testing that we've been going over since Monday. And on Monday we went over unit testing, and unit testing is just testing essentially methods or like blocks of code, as opposed to how a site works together. I talked about integration testing, and I thought we were going to do integration testing today, which is like functional units being tested together, but we're not doing that today. We're actually doing functional testing, which is going to be making sure like the application works as it should as a whole for the user. Now we're also going to go over some really cool things. The first thing we're going to go over is user stories. So before we get into that, so on Monday we went over unit tests, and unit tests guarantee that our functions work properly, but they don't necessarily guarantee that they coordinate properly. So how things coordinate together in a very broad sense is the purpose of functional tests. They ensure that these units work properly in combination by verifying that particular features of an application work properly. So one feature is such as like saving user data requires many units to function. For example, if you had the client side, you had a screen and you have this page and you have an input form, and in that input form, when you click on it, that data then gets submitted via an AJAX call or an HTML5 form to the server. The server then picks it up. That then returns some data back to you as a response, and that itself is a feature. It's a form submission, or it's a contact form or something like that. That would be a feature. And good unit tests typically verify only individual units of functionality, meaning that if you had this feature, which was send this information or log in or sign up. These are different features, right? So if I signed up, the information would be taken in by the input form. It would be received by the backend. The backend would then take it to the correct route, take it to the correct controller. Controller would then submit that to model. Model would then update that in the database. Controller would then get hit again. And the proper view would then be rendered afterwards with maybe some data being sent back to the view as well. So that's like signing up itself is like a feature, and that involves a lot of individual units inside, right? That would involve a lot of methods. For instance, if you were to just click on the button that would submit all that information, that itself would be an AJAX call. So you'd test the AJAX call. From there, you'd have to test like individual methods and things like that on the back end as well. So when you're testing these features, you're doing essentially functional testing. So since features involve coordination of many such units, functional testing demands a different approach. Functional tests verify features work as a user expects. So unit tests just verify that the logic works as the programmer expects. And functional tests are generally written in terms of the user's expectations of a feature. So, for example, Google allows users to enter a search term and then directs them to a page with search results, right? So that's a feature. If I put in search terms into this Google form, this is a giant feature, right? I mean, that's like, you could say that that's Google's main feature, is me being able to put in something into this search form and being able to get results back. Facebook allows users to like something a friend shared and then displays how many users have liked that item. So that's another huge feature. Dropbox allows users to drag files to the browser and then uploads that file to a database. Again, another huge feature. So the feature I mentioned was very small. These are large features that have a lot of individual components which would have their own unit tests on them. So you can see it as you scale out your application. I mean, it might not make sense to have functional testing on something small where it's like, well, I mean, I can just test it myself real quick, you know. But if you have, you know, a large application like Facebook, Google, Dropbox, or even as you guys start working with larger teams, or even making this application bigger as a four-person team, it can get really redundant and error-prone to test things yourself. So how you explain your functionality is generally described in something called a user story. So I know we went over user stories in Pivotal Lab when we visited Mike McCormick. He actually went over that, and he mentioned user stories being put into Pivotal Tracker, which is what he used, and that's just basically like a Trello. It keeps track of, like, you know, your backlog of tasks. So we also have like backlogs of tasks. We've been using, you know, Asana, Trello, whatever project management tool you want to use. But we haven't been creating these user stories. We've been just kind of generating our own kind of, you know, messages for what our tasks are going to be. But generally, a user story is supposed to describe what a feature that a user wants. And the template for that is generally, and I'm just going to type it into the chat, as a role, I want to action. So I can, and then you have the reason. And that's generally how user stories are developed, because this goes into the agile, you know, user-based approach where it's quickly iterative and it describes exactly what the user wants and why they want it. So it helps describe what it is. It allows the engineer and even the business team to be able to understand, okay, this is what they want, this is who wants it, this is what they want, and this is why they want it. So that way it clears up a lot of discrepancies that can occur if you just write, like, you know, I want something. It's like, well, who is this I and why do you want this? So it really does help things by structuring in a certain way. So for a few examples would be like, as a user, I want to send tweets so others can read them. As a Node developer, I want to be able to easily download code others have written so I can develop more quickly. So these examples are like, you know, okay, so as a user, that's my role as a user. I want to send tweets. So what do I want to do? I want to send tweets. Oh, why? Oh, so others can read them. Cool. All right, that makes sense. As a Node developer, so this is the developer saying, oh, this is who I am. I want to be able to easily download code others have written. Okay, what do you want to do? I want to be able to easily download code that others have written. Why do you want to do this? So I can develop more quickly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me know if you guys have any questions in between. Just like interrupt me. Let's see. So just like we use Mocha and Chai for unit testing, there's libraries out there for functional testing. So I'm going to Slack out. Let's see. Should I Slack this out? Yeah, I'll Slack it out. Do I even have it here? Nightmare. Yeah, Nightmare API. Actually, this is a really well done API. Not as good as Express, but still pretty good. Okay, so let's see. General. Now I'll post this to. What the hell just happened here? Stop it. Okay. Post this here. So if you guys go to that API, it'll actually show you a whole bunch of stuff, and it says a bunch of random things. It'll be like, okay, Nightmare is a high-level browser automation library. You're probably like, I have no idea what that means. But if you dissect it, it just means that you're automating things that you do in the browser. It exposes a few simple methods and an API that feels synchronous for each block of scripting rather than deeply nested callbacks. Um, it uses Electron, and don't worry what that means. It's just more technologies. But essentially, you can combine doing some tests on the browser, and you can mix that up with Mocha and Chai, and we're going to get into that. So we can combine our unit tests with our feature tests. So let's get into that. All right. So, and I'll push this stuff up today if I remember. Actually, let me just push it up right now. Is it 10? Monday, Wednesday. Functional testing. And this is 16.2. Okay. And I'll just send you guys everything. Check what branch I'm on. Good. Da-na-na-na-na. Okay, now we're okie dokie. So if you guys pull from GitLab, you should see all the activities. There's only 2 activities, so today should be much, much shorter. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through them. Again, I'm just going to do a walkthrough rather than you guys trying to figure this out on your own because, again, even though it's short, it's still overly complicated for what you guys need to do, especially during project week. So first off, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. All right. Let me actually exit that. Go to 1, and so I'm just going to go to examples. And let me just run one of the examples. So I created one example, and there's one example that existed. So let me run this example.js, and let me see what happens. Okay, so I'm opening up a browser. It's typing something in for me. Huh, and I'm getting something back. Pretty cool, right?
Yes.
So it actually runs this thing called a headless browser using Electron. So Electron's a headless browser, and it actually runs some unit tests on, or sorry, some a library on top of it. So what essentially just happened was this stuff. So what I did was I had to install Nightmare. So I just did npm install Nightmare, and from there I have this example.js. So I require Nightmare. I then use this instantiation of Nightmare. So over here I'm requiring it, and this is like something that I can instantiate from. So I then have to call it again using lowercase, uppercase is just for me, but this is showing that hey, it's a constructor and I'm instantiating this Nightmare, saying show to true. So this is just something you'd do. From here I can start my Nightmare. So I have this Nightmare which is based off of this instantiation, and I say okay, when Nightmare starts up, go to and then I can put in a URL. So it opens up Electron, which then, it has a library built on top of it called Nightmare, and it'll go to this URL in that browser. From there, I'm saying type the following into this area. And what I'm going to type in is GitHub Nightmare. So this is similar to jQuery selectors. What it's doing is the type, click, wait. These are all looking for JavaScript selectors. So if I actually went to yahoo.com, so this is actually saying, okay, in this form, action equals search. Anything that has this search into it, put this text into there. So this is being replaced with this. So whatever's being put into here is this GitHub Nightmare. So it does that for me. Pretty cool stuff. From there, it's saying, okay, now once you're done typing that stuff in, now click. Now what are you going to click on? Oh, you're going to again look for that form that has an action which equals anything with ends with search. And then the type of that is going to be submit. So you can actually do this with selectors. And these are valid CSS selectors that you can use. So it's using those CSS selectors to be able to find the element that you want, and then it's going to do a click on it. Once it's done, then it waits for main to load. And the main is the div container that contains all of this. I had to actually look it up. So I had to go into here, and if it's your own site, it's going to be pretty easy to understand what your structure is going to be. But for me, it was like, holy shit, what is going on? So GitHub Nightmare, let's just type it in manually. And now this would show up, right? So if we do inspect, and you go to here, go to left, go to main. So now you see this main. So that's what it's waiting for right here. From there, you can run an evaluation function. What that does is it says like, okay, you can actually run some code. So what data do we want to return that gets sent to the promise? So we can say, okay, find the main dot search center middle. So that's going to be a class inside main. So let's go search center middle. It's going to be somewhere in here, right here. And then in that, look for an li with an anchor tag. Li with an anchor tag. So any of these are going to be an li with an anchor tag. Look for an anchor tag inside. So one of these has to have an anchor tag. And there you go. Now take that anchor tag, and all of those anchor tags actually, and then get the href inside of it and return it back to me. So this is just something very specific, and it's just like looking for it for some reason. It just wants it. So you can actually do that. Like you can actually go and traverse through your entire DOM and be able to get this information and test it out. And then you end that to saying, okay, I'm done with this stuff. Now, okay, with the information that was returned, because these are all just chained functions, take this result, which is coming from this return, and console log it. If there's an error, then say the search failed. So why don't we try changing it up? We type in, I don't know. Someone give me a suggestion. What should I type in? What should I test? What should be Yahoo search?
The Lion King remake.
The Lion King remake?
Secondly.
I'm sorry? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that. What was that?
Oh yes.
Yes?
This is something I'm angry about.
Okay, so let's see what happens. Okay, so if I run that, opens up browser, types in Lion King remake. I'm not doing it, by the way. This is all just manual. And it returns the href for that. So it's returning images.search images, blah, 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 and it's returning all this information. Cool. So I'm able to test something out. using this headless browser. So I don't have to manually do this. Because otherwise, in order to test to see if this would work, I'd have to manually go in, type this in, do it. Now, if I just hit this command, node example.js, or if I just hit, later on I'll show you, like, I just type in, like, just run test, it'll run all the tests in order, and it'll check to see if it's working. So it automatically does all this for you. Pretty cool, right?
So when they were saying that that they do the tests first and then they do the feed, I think that's what they said, right?
Yeah, it's called behavior or tester in development.
So then, does that mean that they have a team of people creating tests, or does that mean that the people who are going to start creating the features are going to create the tests first and then?
The latter, correct. So what they're going to do is they're going to first create the tests, and then the tests are going to fail.
Who creates that though?
The developer. So the
the
developer
same
making the
developer.
features, yeah. Like, so let's say that I have a feature on a backlog. Shit, I don't have Pivotal Tracker anymore. Let's say I have a backlog of tasks or something, right? And these are all user stories, and they're listed in terms of priority. Someone says that these need to be implemented first. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna start on this one. So you start it. From there, you say, okay, this task is to implement a feature that would it would just be something simple, maybe like add a navigation menu to all of our pages. Okay, so what I first do is I'm going to create the test. Like, this navigation feature should be seen across, should look the same across all websites. This blah 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 should be able to do this and this. There's a lot of things that could be able to happen in when you're creating this navigation menu.
So how would you know what to test for? I mean, like, for example, a navigation bar, for one, it has to show up, right? So
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's one test.
hmm
Secondly, it has to have the right, I don't know, buttons in the navigation. Otherwise, it's just an empty navigation bar.
Right.
And it also has to have working links.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
test
So
for all of those.
yeah. So you'd have to create tests. Well, I mean, you wouldn't go like to an infinite amount, but like you would set up like general tests. Like, I guess this is more like a feature rather than unit testing. So you'd be like, okay, if a user does click on any one of these links, it does go to the correct link, and then you'd break that down into individual unit tests from there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So you break up like a large thing into a lot of small things.
Hmm.
And then you test out the feature using functional testing like we're doing now, and you test out the individual parts using unit testing with Mocha and Chai.
I see.
And then from there, once you start building those tests, you're like, oh, now I have my pseudocode essentially, because I'm testing what things I want. Like, what would someone want if they are doing this? Like, how could they make this, right? Essentially, by testing it, you're making what the user wants.
Yeah, that's smart.
Right? So it is essentially just pseudocoding it, but while you're pseudocoding, you're creating tests for it that fail. And the whole point is to make these tests pass. So if you guys were there on Monday, or Tuesday, what I did was I just made a bunch of tests fail in the beginning, and then slowly like we started like making them pass, like by uncommenting like the certain parts that would make it pass, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that instead of uncommenting, you would actually be building that code to make it pass.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. So it's essentially just like a spec sheet, right? Except that spec sheet can be tests. Okay. So let me run this one now. So now I did something else. I created this one called uselesswebtest.js because I wanted something a little bit more fun. So if I go to node useless and I hit that, opens up, take me to a useless website, clicks on please, and returns undefined. So why don't we make the wait about, let's make it 5,000. So 5,000 milliseconds. That is a useless site. So you can decide how long you want it to wait. But this one, what it'll do is it goes to the site, it waits on this HTML, so it's DOM element to load. From there, it clicks on the DOM element with this ID, and then once it loads, then it waits 5,000 seconds before ending.
What's that DOM element that it's waiting for?
This one is H group, so it's just it's actually just an element. It's an it's an HTML element. But once it's rendered in the browser, it's a DOM element, right?
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay. Alright, skipping. No, I think we're good. Okay. So common ones are go to, type something in, back. So let me see. And they're pretty simple. I mean, they have like very short explanations about these. They're like, oh, okay, well, if you use this, it's gonna go back to the previous page. Forward, it goes to the next page. Refresh, refreshes the current page. Click, clicks the selector element. You know, mouse down. So it allows you to do all these cool things, and they're not like that complicated, right? Like scroll to, you can actually scroll to a certain part of the page. So these are the things that are like commonly used. Let me see.
This is cool. I'm gonna start using this.
Yeah, it's pretty badass, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this all day today by hand.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, this would be really cool if you implement. They'd be like, "What? You can do that?"
You know.
I think our pod's gonna flip.
You know, jumping because you have to jump in and try out your authentication form over and over and over.
Oh, yeah, this would be perfect for authentication. Actually, we're gonna go over that right now. Right now, or
so let's say that it authenticates. It's opening up in that Electron browser, right? Which does that mean that it stores sessions?
no, that wouldn't store set. It could store sessions, does it? Headless browser, cookie parser. I wonder if it has that. I don't think it stores sessions. I'm not sure though. It might have the capacity to store sessions.
Will it do it?
Well, actually, no. It should because it's still just a browser.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, even though it's a headless browser, it's still a browser.
So then, when it exits out and it finally gives me my output saying that it finished and it passed, does that mean that does that mean it dumps all that session stuff so that I can rerun the test again and it's not logged in?
Yeah, it should be because it shouldn't save the state after it's run, but I think while it's running, it should save that state.
Cool.
Yeah. So, and by the way, like a headless browser is basically a web browser without a graphical user interface. So you don't have like all this fancy stuff and everything to like interact with. You just have the browser itself.
Okay.
It provides like automated control, so you can run all these tests and stuff on it. Let me see. What else do I need to cover? Ooh, yeah. So now let's go over exactly what you're talking about, authentication. So why don't we try this one? So this one, what it'll do is it'll go to frontendmasters.com. It'll log in with a username that's real and a password that's real. I'll take a screenshot of it. We'll click on submit. Wait for this to load. Scroll to a certain section of the page. Screenshot that. Find this, the length of this, whatever it's looking for, that element, and then test it out. Notice something peculiar about this. This looks similar to what syntax that we went over on Tuesday. You guys probably don't even remember, huh? Because you guys are like, I'm on my project stuff. So this refers to chai. Chai has assertions that you can make. And this one is using the should module. So chai has 3 different types of assertion. It has assert, it has should, and it has expect. So we're using behavior-driven development inside of Nightmare. That means we're using chai. And you see that over here. I'm using this should module. So we're able to use chai, and we're able to test things in unit testing. So whatever this was that got returned, we're able to then test that further. So we're able to do functional testing, and then also perform some unit tests as well. So why don't we test this out? Why don't we run this? So the logging in. Hit submit. It's logged in. Scrolls down. Boom.
Is it
So
not supposed to give you an output?
let's see. I think if it works, then it shouldn't. Oh, actually, let me see. Do I need to run this as a test? Let me try running it with Mocha. No, it doesn't need to be run with Mocha. It just needs to be run with Node. So it runs, logs in, does all that. It seems to be missing a little something. Hold on, scroll to, no, it does that. Yeah. So as long as it doesn't return like like an error, I guess it should be fine. This one, I was hoping it would give me some more feedback back, but I guess it doesn't.
So if you were to change the password, it should give you an error?
Yeah, so it should stop it. So if I change this to like this, if I run this, it should give me an error. Let's see. Incorrect password, and then let's see what happens.
It looks like it's still one. Oh.
No, just give me incorrect password. So it just stops. So I don't actually have error handling to test it out. So only if it works correctly will give me that. Otherwise, you can actually have like some throw errors and stuff like that. So what's happening is it's being stuck over here.
So then, can I create a whole bunch of these and then somehow, somewhere log all of this, like so that I can just run it?
Yeah, you should be able to run it simultaneously. Let me see. You're saying to run it simultaneously, right? Instead of like one by one?
No. Oh, yeah, simultaneously, and then also so that I can just run it and then afterwards see a log of which one passed, which one's failed.
Oh, I see. Yeah. No, I think normally you'd have better logging. Like I think the later examples are gonna have better logging about what went wrong, what went right. Because this one doesn't actually have any logging built in. Let's see. This one, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So this one doesn't actually have any logging. Let me check to see if the next one does. I think this one should have some logging. So let's check this one. Ooh, and this one has, yeah, this one has tons of stuff. Okay. Oh, so I have to run Mocha with this? Yeah, so this one is actually using Mocha for testing. The other one is using an assertion. So this one should return back to me my pass and fail. So this is actually Mocha running. One, I failed on just to make the Mocha output. Oh, yeah, so this one was failing on purpose. Okay, yeah. So this one, if you run it with Mocha, then it will return back to you whether or not there was a failure or not. So you can run these features with Mocha.
How do you know when you can run it with Mocha or not?
You'd actually just include it. So like over here, you're saying like, okay, describe. So this is like Mocha stuff. So right now what we did was before we did it without Mocha. So without Mocha, it allowed us to do the testing, but didn't allow us to get some feedback about what failed and what passed, right? Mm-hmm. But now what we did was we said, okay, well, fuck that noise. Why don't we try... Actually, let me see. This one should run... Oh, no, this one's still Mocha. Okay. Why don't I try running Mocha and then test? Yeah, so those are running two different things. This is so cool. All right, so I ran tests on two different files. So the first file was this one that I showed you, and this one that I ran the next one on was actually making the site show up and do all these crazy things. This one should actually do the same thing. Let me see if... There's a reason it's not showing up. Let me see. Mocha example JS. It was working earlier. Let me see what's going on. Does it want me to run it with Node? No, that doesn't make sense. It's just Mocha. Huh. Not sure why this one's not working. Let's see. Should. Oh, this one's just to throw the error and make everything not work. Okay, so this is the one that fails. And so this is the one that you're supposed to do it like. So what they want you to do is they actually want you to set it up the same way as you did Mocha. And when you set it up with Mocha, what you do is you have a test folder, and you put all the tests inside of that folder. Then inside your package.json, you have these scripts test set to Mocha, so that when you're testing, you have the Mocha as the qualifier. And then whatever arguments you pass this qualifier Mocha will be what gets tested. So if you say Mocha and then you do test, it'll run every file inside example.js. Or sorry, every file inside test. So in this case, cool. It's example.js. So we just require all these and make sure that you do an npm install. From there, you use Mocha to describe front-end masters. Again, if you're there on Tuesday, all this is a single string that describes what the test is. Then there's a callback function. You can do a timeout of 10,000 milliseconds, so that's 10 seconds. It should know form when loaded, so this is going to be a unit test. So you instantiate Nightmare, and now you can start using Nightmare. So the same thing we did before, except now we're doing it inside of a unit test. Right, so we're doing it. Sorry, we're doing it as if we're doing a unit test. So we're testing this feature inside using Mocha as a framework. Oh, sorry, no. This is not doing a unit test. It's using Mocha as a framework to do the feature test, which is a functional test. Okay, so we have Nightmare. Inside Nightmare, we then do the same thing as we did above, which was here, which is that we're chaining all these methods. So we're doing the exact same thing. We chain all these methods together. So the first thing that happens is we go to frontendmasters.com. From there, we click on, or we wait on this login to load. Then we click on this login. We wait for this user login to load. We evaluate document.title. We return that, and that gets passed to then as a result. And whatever gets passed into this title should equal login to frontend masters. And once that's finished, then we just get done with this. Then we say, okay, since we're still in this describe, we can then chain. So we have another test. So what we're doing is it should present multiple workshop choices after login. Cool. So we're doing this whole feature test with a bunch of individual tests written and nested in between. So we can call like a whole bunch of its. So it's it. So this last one, or the second one, is it should present multiple workshop choices after login. So after you log in, so after this is done, after this login is done over here, then you wait for this login to load, and then you put in your user credentials, you click submit. From there, you find everything that has list item alt as the class. You get the length of it. From there, you close this, pass this return value to this promise as course count. Course count should be above 1, so then you check what this is, and use this try assertion to say like, okay, so whatever this value gets returned back to us, it should be above 1. That means it should be more than 1. If there's an error, then you log the error, and that's it. So we did like 2 large tests back to back. So if we run this again, if I hit Mocha test, it's running that first one. So it ran the first one, and it gave us this green over here. Ran the second one, and it gave us an incorrect password. So the second one failed. Should present multiple workshop choices after login. So let's see why that failed. Oh, that's because his password's wrong. So let me go to example.js. And let me put in the right password. So now if I put in the right password and hit Mocha test, I should get a first test passed. Cool. So my first test passed. So that was the second test. Why is the second one still not working? Should be above 1. Course count should be above 1. Like S, blah, blah, blah. Well, second one should have passed. There's something wrong there, so might be the username. Let me check the username. Yep, that's right. All right, not sure why the second test isn't passing. This should pass, and then the third one should just throw an error. Oh, timeout exceeded. Okay. Being called in this task. Done is being called. So maybe just wait longer. Let's wait 15,000. Come on. Person passed. Okay, yeah. Second one passed, and the third one should automatically fail by itself. Cool, so that worked. What happened was, because we set this timeout to say like, okay, this shouldn't take longer than this amount of time, we went past that time, and it said, sorry, it failed because this time ran out. So if I took that out, then it would just hang forever if it got stuck on something. So these first two passed, so we fixed making these pass, and then this third one will always throw an error. So if I take that out, then we're not going to have any errors. So if I do this, and it tells you how long it took too. Pretty cool. Cool. So now we have 2 tests passing. So this one, it's just like it's just throwing an error because it always will, just to make things more interesting. So delete that part. But that's it. So I know there's a lot, but essentially all it's doing is it's saying, hey, these are the tests that we're going to run. This is going to be for front-end masters, so I'm going to describe the series of tests that I'm going to run. And then you just put the tests inside here. And then from there, you can do some feature testing in the same framework as you did with Mocha and Chai. Except that you get to use Nightmare, which is really cool because you get to use like, go here, wait for this, click on this, okay, now wait for this, then type this in here, and inside here, type this in, then click on this, and then wait for this. So these are all just like the same thing as when you're using jQuery and using CSS selectors to find stuff. If you want to pass something to a promise and you just want to evaluate something, then you can use this evaluate, and whatever you return gets passed as promise. You can use these catch for errors being thrown and log into a console. But that's pretty much it. Like, if you guys wanted to create these kind of tests, this would be more than enough to start creating some actual tests, especially for authentication.
Hey, so we can use this to log into Bootcamp?
Yep. Don't do that. Damn it. Okay, wait, hold on. It would log you in. Oh shit, it would log you in. But then technically you could log in. Oh, so you're saying like you would set up some kind of. Oh, I don't want to give you guys ideas. Never mind. Don't do that. I'll catch on because I know how these things work too.
Really?
Uh-huh.
So then we have to beat the professor.
Oh, that actually be an interesting challenge. You'll probably beat me because I have no time and I can't remember things. So if you told me you were there, I'd be like, oh, I guess you were. Okay, well, hopefully this is fun. I found this stuff pretty interesting. I never used like Phantom.js or Nightmare or any of these. Ruby has its own stuff built in with Cucumber and RSpec. Well, actually, no, Cucumber was third party. That was a gem. I think that's what they were using at Pivotal. What do you think, Cucumber? I forgot what they were using. But they're all going to be similar in the same respect that they're going to be like tests that you're going to run. They have to make sure like pass, and you're going to start off with failing tests that you then try to make work by starting to create code.
Cool.
Cool.
And is their documentation good?
Yeah, their documentation is pretty decent. It's not too bad. So if you look at their API, it's like their API is just their GitHub, which I linked. So go to load the page URL. These are the things that you can do. If you use back, so if I put back inside here, it would go back to the previous page. If I go forward, refresh, stuff like that, mouse down, insert, uncheck, check. So you can check certain things, uncheck certain things, all that kind of stuff, just using CSS selectors.
Ooh.
Yeah. So you can do front end, back end testing, all that kind of stuff. Any questions? Any more questions?
No.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go watch a movie now. So I'm trying to have a life, and it's really difficult. So, yeah, thanks.
Thank you all.
Yeah, anytime. All right. If you guys need anything, let me know, and someday I'll get back to you.
All right, later.
All right, peace.